Welcome to the Gospel According to Star Trek podcast. I'm Kevin C. Neese.
And I'm Mike Poteet, and you're listening to episode 74, where we're reviewing Star Trek Picard's latest episode, Fly Me to the Moon. We'll start off with some Star Trek trivia questions.
And then we'll find out who wins Star Trek trivia right after our main topic discussing Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 5, Fly Me to the Moon. What a crazy episode this was. We're going to have a great conversation. Stick around. Well, it's been a while, sir.
It has, but listen, before we go any further, I want to say how much I enjoyed the conversation both conversations you and Ruth had in my absence. I was so glad she could come on the show, and I especially appreciated hearing her tell her personal story about her experiences growing up and how Star Trek helped in that situation, and the passion she has for the show and especially for the gospel. I just really, really enjoyed your conversations last week. So,
well, thank you.
I hope to hear more of her in the future too.
We will. I mean, I enjoyed it too. Ruth enjoyed it. We had a great time. We've been wanting to do that for a really long time, and it was great to finally be able to get her on the show and share her story, which is beautiful. If you haven't heard episode 73, Sisterhood of the Stars, go check it out because it was a really good one. It was by no fault of my own. It was all just Ruth has a beautiful story, and so there you go. So welcome back. I'm glad you're here, sir.
Good to be back. I was got to see my son last week while he was home from college for spring break. So
nice.
Yeah, it's wild to think we're already at spring break time.
Right? Do we need a break yet? Really? I mean,
well, to think that 3 months of 2022 are already in the books.
Oh, I know.
Time flies, whether or not you're having fun.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need a spring break about every week. But, I think that's a little thing called a Sabbath. Maybe I should look into that. Anyway.
I've heard those are good ideas.
I just did that to myself. Anyway. Yeah, I've heard this. They come highly recommended.
Do you think that Starfleet officers get sabbaticals? I mean, I guess the crew of Discovery is on a sabbatical right now, kind of, right?
Yeah,
not just out of universe, in universe too. They're taking time off before their next mission.
Yeah, we'll call it a sabbatical, though. I think that's a good idea because if you call it shore leave, everything's just going to go sideways. That's just how it works.
Well, yeah. Shore leave sounds a little too much like. What happens on Risa stays on Risa. So,
well, but anytime we go for shore leave, we only encounter chaos and have.
That's
people on Star Trek, they go out for shore leave to have a break, but they need a break after their break because nothing ever goes right the first time they take
That's right. Well, that would make a really boring episode if they went on shore leave and just. We watch them sit around sipping Mai Tais and reading books all the time.
But is Star Trek subtly telling us we should be working all the time? I don't know. Anyway.
No, but Star Trek's telling us we should be open to adventure all the time.
There you go. There you go. Breaks are for the holodeck. Well, and nothing ever goes wrong in there.
Well, that would be, I could see one of those smarmy admirals from TNG saying, you don't need shore leave, you've got a holodeck.
Right.
Starfleet paid good credits for that technology.
Right. My son was referring to a Star Trek episode last night, and he was like, the one where where the holodeck goes crazy? And I was like, you're going to have to narrow it down.
Yeah, I got to be more specific.
Oh, man. Well, let's see, though, since we're talking about holodecks and shore leave, let's see if there are any holodecks or shore leave mentioned in our Star Trek trivia, because I'm looking forward to playing Star Trek trivia with you. And
all right,
Ruth did
let's
well.
See how it goes. I can't tell you whether there are or not because I haven't seen these questions yet, but here they are. All right, number one.
All right.
In the Voyager episode Message in a Bottle, which alien hunters are displeased when they learn their relay station is being used by Voyager?
I have an idea.
As
we all know, I am not a Voyager expert. Yet, I will be by the time I write the book.
Which alien hunters are displeased when they learn their relay station? I've got a guess, but I'm not at all sure it's correct.
I am in the same boat, so
Not even sure they're from the right series, frankly, to be honest with you. All right. Number 2. We ready to move on?
Ready.
Number 2. What long-kept secret does Captain Picard reveal to Dr. Crusher in the Next Generation episode Attached?
Oh. See, I love that episode, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
I haven't seen it in a while either, but I think I'm in the ballpark, at least on this one.
All right.
Okay. Number 3. Continuing a theme from a previous trivia question, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Gorshin played Beale in the original series episode Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, but was best known for playing whom on the television series Batman?
Aha. Another Batman reference here. This is a bit of a theme.
I think we might have to do a Star Trek Batman crossover episode one day.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that the two of us probably at least got one right.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. So we will see how that all turns out at the end of the episode. Speaking of episodes, we have to discuss this new thing we have been given to us. Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 5, Fly Me to the Moon. Please give us your rendition of Fly Me to the Moon.
Fly me to the moon. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Now, this is like
Great.
the second time in the franchise this song has come up, right?
Yes.
Vic sang it on the holodeck in the holo suite in Deep
Right.
Space Nine.
Right. Yep. So I definitely had Vic Fontaine flashbacks during this episode. Absolutely.
And then in Star Trek Discovery this season, we had stormy weather. So we're doing the Great American Songbook in Star Trek.
Yes, we are. Well, and this is the third moon episode of Star Trek. We had In the Pale Moonlight, and It's Only a Paper Moon, and now Fly Me to the Moon. So, hey.
Yeah, good one. I hadn't thought about that.
The lunar trek continues.
This was a great episode, and the first thing I thought as I watched it was, Ruth called it on your show last week.
Wasn't that great? I was so happy. She was messaging me later like, it's got to be Gary 7.
Well, I mean, it's the next closest thing to Gary
7. Right.
They
I mean, it's not Gary 7,
Gary
but
7
I mean,
by name.
we know it's his people because of that
Yeah.
transporter window. She was like, I recognize that transporter door. I know it's got to be them. And I was hoping.
That's right. Because
Yep.
when Ruth mentioned that on the podcast last week, I thought, oh, that's really smart, but that's such a deep cut. They're not going to do that. But They did, and it was wonderful. Yeah. Now I don't know why she looks like Laris.
I don't know either. That's really weird. There are a lot of people who look like other people in this episode, and it's creeping me out.
Well, there are, but the rest of them kind of make sense. I mean, the Soong facial structure must be very, very aggressively dominant genes, because every other male in that family looks like Brent Spiner. I mean, spitting image. Yeah. But at least, and then I saw online, this wasn't original to me, but that Issa Briones as Correa, thank you. Okay. Must be the template Data used either consciously or subconsciously when he created his daughters,
Yeah.
So the rest of the resemblances make sense, but why the supervisor or the watcher looks like Laris, I guess we'll get an explanation of that before the season is over.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see.
But how amazing that they brought back Gary 7's people. It made me think, so Paramount Plus has now picked up The Cage, and now we've got a pickup of Assignment Earth in a sense.
Yep, well, absolutely. It's crazy, and it's great to see, because you don't necessarily expect that in Picard, because you expect the callbacks to Next Generation for sure.
Yeah,
but you don't necessarily expect a callback to the original series, at least not at this level.
Right, and it's the second time this season that he said the words Kirk's Enterprise. XYZ,
oh, that's right. That's right.
Like, wow. So I'm very pleased by that. As an original series, that was my entry point. So
the callback is really great. Is just great to the original series. I love the way the Laris character is used. even though it's not Laris.
Uh-huh.
Talon is the name of the character from the Gary 7 people, the supervisor, who looks like Laris. We have Adam Soong. Adam, come on now.
Yeah, well, it's a little on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah. Who looks like Brent Spiner. And then we have Correa, who looks like Soji, who looks like Daj.
Yeah.
And then we have a little moment of Elnor.
Yeah, boy, that was gut wrenching. That Rafi's seeing Elnor. When he's not there. Yeah.
And I thought for just a moment, like, no, not another person in this timeline who looks like somebody from our timeline. I can't take it. So I was glad.
It threw me for a second too.
Yeah. I was glad that was not that. But so it was kind of interesting with this episode how many of those moments showed up, and I don't really understand the logic of casting the actor who plays Laris as Talon. I don't understand the logic of that. Maybe it'll make sense.
It might. But... And I saw her tweet something where it's a picture of herself in character as Talon. It's a still from the episode, and she tweeted, and the tweet was something to the effect of, "This is the look of a woman who's wondering whether she was or wasn't a cat at some previous point in her life." So I'm wondering if she's implying that she was Isis back in Assignment Earth. I kind of hope not, because that kind of like, okay, well,
I'll tell you.
But she was wearing a scarf around her neck, and I think, well, no, we see Isis with something around her neck. That one scene
collar.
Anyway, I don't know. I'm sure they'll explain.
Yeah,
at least I think they will. Maybe they will. I don't know.
I hope so. We'll see. It's interesting that you say that. You're not the first person I've heard make that hypothesis about her being a cat. So, it's not your.
Well, to be
original,
clear, it's the actor's hypothesis.
Yes,
I really don't want that to be the case, because I don't know, that gets kind of weird then, with Gary carrying her around and stroking her all through Assignment Earth. But
I suppose it does.
Maybe that's how those super aliens roll. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. That's very interesting. That's one of those weird things that happens in the original series. I don't know how well they could go back to that and have it hold up today.
You don't have to pick up on everything. They've already picked up on the galactic barrier in Star Trek Discovery. I don't know that Picard has to pick up on ISIS.
Right.
Some things we can just let be.
Right. Well, speaking of people looking like people, they also sound like people, because I don't know about you, but the second I heard John DeLancie's voice as the therapist, I was like, well, that's Q.
Well, yes, and of course, who else is going to do such a stereotypical "tell me about your mother" kind of therapist voice? I don't know how Renee Picard sat there with a straight face when her therapist sounds like, some high school kid playing Sigmund Freud in the school play.
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
But, thank goodness that we have real therapists, and they're not all trying to talk us out of our best possible life the way Q is doing to this poor young woman.
Absolutely. Yeah, please don't let this depiction throw you off therapy, because
That's right.
Boy, if a therapist ever talks to you like that, find another therapist, because that's
shame on NASA for not vetting their psychological personnel better in 2024.
Yeah, no kidding. I want to know how Q sneaked in there without his Q powers. What's the deal? I mean, we had this ineffectual snap at the end of last episode, which we have not seen since Q was kicked out of the continuum back in Next Generation. What the cast is going on?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, he said something to Adam Soong about time abandoning him. Didn't he say something like?
Yeah, that's right. Maybe that has something to do with it.
What that could mean for a practically immortal super being, I don't know.
Right. And it's interesting to see Q sort of applying his scheming ways without his powers, and why is he having to do this? It's very interesting. And
well, his ultimate goal is pretty clear at this point, right? Like, they've revealed his plan is to not have Renee Picard go on that mission, so she can't find the microorganism that she thinks is sentient. and so it
Right.
can't be brought back to Earth. So apparently, this is one of those fulcrum points in Star Trek's history. I mean, Picard says the records of that century before first contact are so full of chaos. We don't know, but I mean, clearly it's got to be important, or else Q wouldn't have chosen it to be the thing he messes around with, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's gonna be something, and it's interesting that it's a Picard. We have these sort of family dynasties forming in Star Trek.
Hmm.
We have it with the Soongs, and now we're getting it with the Picards. We kind of had it with the Worfs, honestly.
Well, that's not wrong with Colonel Worf from Star
Yep.
Trek 6. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting.
I do like the idea. I mean, it's been established for at least since Generations, and probably at some point in TNG. Picard coming from a family of explorers and adventurers.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
So I like that they're picking up on that.
Mm-hmm. It does make sense that he would have an astronaut in his lineage. I mean, it really does.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Though, speaking of lineages, here's a little thing I wonder if you caught. Now, I hope you saw, surely you noticed Leah Thompson in this episode.
Oh, she's in the episode.
Oh, yes.
Like on camera? No,
yes.
No, where is she?
Okay, so when Dr. Adam Soong is talking to the board of people, whatever, the main person he's talking to, Dr. Diane Warner, is Leah Thompson.
Is she really?
Yes.
Oh, I had no idea.
Wonderful.
No, that's wonderful.
Yes. So that's her. And then sitting next to her, if you look at their little nameplates, sitting next to her is Dr. Vasily Rozhenko.
No.
Yes.
Well, that's very clever. They're having a lot of fun in the Picard production offices.
Or will that come to mean something? Who knows?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it'll be significant. Maybe it'll just be like, last week Q was mentally trash talking or trying to, whatever, Renee Picard in Jackson Roykirk Plaza. That was a nice detail. But
right.
at the same time, I think it's maybe Christopher Bennett, Star Trek novelist, has talked about being careful not to make the universe so small that everybody's connected to everybody.
Right.
But that's if it's just on a nameplate, that's a nice Easter egg for fans who are like you, because I didn't notice, but you noticed and picked up on it. So it's nice for those who can catch it. And I think as long as it doesn't become a critical plot point, in episode 7,
right.
Remember that scientist sitting next to Dr. So-and-so at the panel? That was Worf's great uncle.
We shall see. If that goes anywhere. But I just, again, with all of the relatives and people who look like people showing up at this episode, that was just like, oh boy, here we go again. And
it does. Oh, go ahead.
And when, Adam Soong starts talking to Q, he says, "You're teasing me with data."
Yes.
I mean,
well,
come on.
Did you notice that Talon talks about protecting one individual, a single string, and a grand tapestry?
Oh, man, I missed that.
That's the second episode name check we've gotten this season, because Q said to Picard in episode 2, "How very yesterday's Enterprise of you."
That's right.
So... And maybe there's even others that I've missed too, but
is it getting to be too much?
Well, again, I think if it's only there as Easter eggs, then it's fun and it's breadcrumbs and it's not the clues to the great mystery. But if they start to make these coincidences or not so coincidences bear too much freight, then I think it's a problem. But I mean, and I guess also it does speak to the recurrence of ancestors and images, and I didn't think about all the Soong males kind of sounding like each other too. But, it does speak a little bit to how we're never completely free of our past, for good or for ill, right? And legacy and those who have come before shape us often in ways we're not even aware of. So they could be commenting on that somehow as well. But
that's really true. I mean, it does speak to sort of the almost cyclical nature of time, the way we repeat similar patterns, both as individuals and as societies, cultures, repeating similar patterns again. which says something about the furtherance of the perpetuation of human nature, which is bound up, I guess, in where we come from and in where we're going. It's bound up in our destinies, and that's interesting that we can observe that in our existence. So I find that fascinating, even
I
though
wonder
it's
why the Soongs kept at it generation after generation. We've got Adam Soong as the geneticist, and we've got the Soong character from Enterprise. His first name escapes me.
Eric.
Thank you. Who was doing the augments, and then of course Noonien Soong working on the positronic dream. But it is interesting. I guess each generation sees what the one before either accomplished or failed to accomplish, and wants to build on or validate or vindicate, and add to. I don't know. It's interesting.
They're all strangely obsessed, though. But I think of Picard and Who Watches the Watchers talking about making a better bow.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. But that's a good connection to make. And I will say, Adam, of all the Soongs that Brent Spiner has played, Adam seems most relatable, and maybe that's because he's basically a man of our time, But maybe it's just because the raw emotion of it. I mean, Q he knows how to get to this guy. Oh, the sad irony, a geneticist whose daughter has an incurable genetic condition. Well, of course that would eat at you, and you think, how can I not find a way to help my daughter with this terrible condition where she can't be in the sun and can't feel the wind on her face and can't go outside at all? Of course you'd be just eaten up about that. So I have to say, of all the Soongs, I think I like this one the best. He seems relatable, and you have to ask, well, what would I do in that situation? I can't really relate to Noonien Soong and Eric Soong, but this guy who's given this chance, and he knows there's something dodgy about it, and he knows he's getting himself into a spot where he's going to be owing something to Q not too long down the road, but man, you understand, even if you don't condone, you understand why he's doing it, because he was given this taste of what it could be like for his daughter, of how in a way, and he'll do anything to make that permanent, to make it stick. So I mean, another great job by Brent Spiner, but just the situation the writers constructed, the emotions are so relatable, I think.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, there is, nothing more valuable, nothing more precious, than your child if you have one. Right. And it's very understandable to have that kind of motivation for the character. And I liked that he wasn't given any glimpse of what the price would be.
Right.
And I think that helps. Because, in that similar situation with Mickey from Doctor Who and Star Trek Into Darkness, you kind of go, when Khan says, is there anything you wouldn't do for your family? It's like, yeah, well, I wouldn't do that. That is definitely something I wouldn't do for my family. Not to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen the film, but, that was the first thing I thought of.
It hadn't even occurred to me, but you're right. It's a similar situation.
Yeah, but I like that he doesn't know what the cost is, but he's like, well, darn it, I'll do anything. Just not maybe letting himself believe that it might be something really terrible. And it might, I don't know. He wants to get Renee Picard sort of out of the way, if you will. I'm afraid he's going to try to have him kill her. I don't know.
Well, right. I mean, because there are various degrees you could go to get her off the mission, right? And I guess he's been trying as Dr. Freud to get her to bow out voluntarily, but if she's not going to, maybe Q decides, well, more drastic measures are called for.
Right. Well, and it's really interesting too, because we see Q powerless, at least in the Q sense,
right?
Working so hard to make this change in the timeline, and yet it is Q who has let Picard know that time has gone askew.
Right.
And if it was Q that set time askew, what is he doing? What is he trying to... I'm not sure what he's trying to teach Picard through all this. But he's trying to do something.
That second episode, he called himself a suture in the wound, as though he was trying to do something to help.
Right.
Right. So,
well, and
I wonder if we're going to see Q run into Q in 2024.
Oh, gee whiz!
Do you think? I don't know.
I don't know. People are multiplying and repeating themselves all over the place. So who knows?
Just assuming the Q we're watching in Roy Kirk Plaza and in the diner with Adam Soong is the Q we saw earlier this season, but maybe it's not.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Huh.
I don't know.
We shall see. Well, I mean, he looks older. And he didn't age himself until he met Picard or appeared to Picard.
Yeah, I kind of wondered, why is he looking like this for Adam Soong's benefit? I mean, they are kind of the same age, so maybe he thought. But if he doesn't have his powers, could he even alter his appearance in 2024?
Or did he already alter it in the future and then went back to the past and now...
Headache, temporal headache.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. So in the sort of lighter part of the episode, what did you think of the whole Alias, Ocean's 11?
It definitely had a heist vibe, didn't it? Oh, I loved it. I thought it was so much. I mean, yeah, for sure. There's the undercurrent is way serious and the stakes are real high. But I admired how this episode walked the line between that and the fun of it. The fun of planning a heist and pulling it off.
Well, Russo goes right for it in the score too, where he's just like do.
Yeah.
Just like, oh my gosh, we're just going there. Which I have to say, maybe I've seen too much of that genre. But it was like, oh, really? Like, well, we'll just have to do this. Well, we can't do that because of this. Well, what about this? Well, we can't do that because of this. Like, the security for this thing is absolutely impossibly insane.
Right.
The kind of thing, again, kind of like the drones making the sun shield. I'm like, can we really expect this level of technology in 2 years? I mean, Star Trek, asks me to make a lot of leaps, but the identity technology and all that, and the drones, I'm like,
I guess 2023 is going to be a big year for tech.
I guess it is. Yeah, I guess it is. And I was kind of like, man, it felt terribly contrived to me to make this situation, because we have to make a 21st century situation difficult enough to penetrate for 24th, 25th century people. And so we have to kind of do some stuff that, for me, I think, I don't know.
I think that's fair. But at the same time, we're not going to be going to Europa in 2 years, a crewed mission to Europa. I mean, so I think if you've bought the premise,
that's true. I agree with that.
I liked the vibe it gave us of why we can't just walk in and do this thing, which the thing I'm not really clear about is they just want to keep eyes on her to make sure nothing happens. Like they're not actively planning to intervene. See, this is strange too, because in Assignment Earth, Gary Seven's whole purpose was to intervene and stop that nuclear missile platform from being launched.
Right.
And here, Talon is hands off and has been for 24 years. I don't quite get. I mean, maybe the aliens out there, wherever, have changed their modus operandi, but I didn't quite. That didn't track for me a little bit in terms of if Renee Picard is so important, what's her importance relative to Gary Seven having to stop that launch in 1968? Why is Talon not actively intervening to at least, hey, go try this therapist instead,
Right. Well, that's kind of a thing where I feel like even though Gary went and stopped that launch, he was keeping himself secret. He was not getting entangled. He was not. So he's staying out of people's lives and staying out of, being seen or anybody knowing that he was doing anything. so that, he wouldn't even appear and
Well, okay.
disappear. So
But did they not give Talon one of those little servo pins? I mean, she just seems to be totally. And Picard has to persuade her to take action. That's how I read the scene.
Well,
anyway.
that's because I don't know if she knows what is at stake or what might be happening. I don't know. I don't know. She is the
she needs a better briefing from the aliens out there at the edge of the galaxy.
She is guarding the thread in the tapestry. She ought to know.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know why. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Maybe Gary wasn't planning on intervening quite the way he did, and he had gotten to a point where it had to force his hand.
That could be true, because I think he says something at the end where he's dictating to his advanced automatic electric typewriter that despite the unforeseen interference from the Enterprise crew, things worked out as they should have, or something.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my point too is just you can pick at things, but I wasn't too eager to pick at the heist. I really liked it. It.
That's fine. I'm glad you were able to go with it. That was the big eye roll section of the episode.
No, I hear you. I can see why that could be. Yeah.
It just felt a bit hackneyed, and I wasn't. I was like, oh, really? We're doing this? Okay, fine.
Well, if we hadn't found out that the Borg Queen is inside Girardi's mind at this point.
Oh yeah.
I think it wouldn't have been as good, because I think that elevated the stakes a whole. I mean, our crew, the La Serena gang, has its own stakes, but the stakes are even. I mean, that is the Agnes Borg Queen thing is so dang creepy.
Yeah, it is,
and so. I mean, it's got manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
It's got psychology stuff. It's got a tinge of eroticism. It's got, just there. That is a strange relationship, and both actors are playing it so beautifully. But man, when I found out, I was surprised that they had killed the Borg Queen. But I thought, well, okay. I mean, I tend to go with things as I watch. I'll process later. But I thought, oh, okay, I guess. But then to find out, I mean, I should have known. That she was not gone, and that she's because they'd done the whole partial assimilation a few episodes back. I mean, I really should have seen it coming, but I didn't. So it surprised me, and it just creeped the heck out of me. And I thought, boy, now and poor Agnes, she was in this situation a little bit in the last season, also, wasn't she? Where she knows something the rest don't know, and she's like the not quite wolf in sheep's clothing, but she's a wild card and the others don't know it. And so here she is again. And I don't know. The fact that we found out that they're enmeshed at this point really just amped up the drama of it for me and the stakes, as I said.
Right. Well, and she's having her mind infiltrated again, and she is being used by this woman in power, right?
Yeah.
Well, I say she's being used. I mean, who knows what's going on exactly? She's at least compromised. And when's she going to tell anybody, or does she know, or, we don't even know how aware she is of what's going on, because we don't know that she was aware that the Borg Queen did anything to her in that pseudo assimilation sequence. So it's very, it's very weird and very creepy. And I just, I'll be interested to see where this goes, but I feel bad for poor Agnes. I really do.
I have to say, I think it makes less likely your very noble idea that I quite like a lot of we're going to find a new way to make peace with the Borg by the end of the season. Because it seems like the Borg Queen is just up to no good.
Yeah,
she just wants to assimilate. So.
Well, that's true, but we're seeing the Borg Queen at a different stage in a different time than even we saw at the beginning of the season. The Borg Queen that was coming to ask to join the Federation. So.
Ostensibly. I still have my doubts about that.
Right. We don't know
because she uses the same kind of Doc Ock thing on Agnes in this episode.
That's true, but I think there again, I really believe that we are going to learn that scene, what was happening in that scene, was not what appeared to be happening in that scene, and I think that's what's going to happen. Something's gonna tell us that the Borg Queen somehow did not have malicious intent, or something wasn't what we thought it was in that scene.
You're putting your marker down on that. Okay.
I am.
I admire you for that, because I'm not so sure it's going to go that way. But I would love. I mean, I'd love to be. I can't wait. I just think this is a great season. I really have not. I've had so much fun this season.
Oh, good.
It's great. I'm really enjoying it.
It's been really enjoyable and really interesting. And let's not forget the story with getting Rios freed.
Yes,
that was again a very this is very heist movie.
Well, it was, and yet I thought it was exactly the right length. I thought
yes,
that subplot I thought had pretty much played itself out. Like, I wouldn't want a whole episode of how we're going to get him off the bus, how are we going to stop the bus.
Right.
So, and I liked that Rafi and Seven were disagreeing about time travel rules. You're going to quote time travel rules to me at a time like this.
Well,
reminded me a little of Deanna to Riker when she's drinking tequila with Cochrane, right? We don't have the time to argue about the timeline. I love seeing those two actors who play Rafi and Seven playing off each other, and you mentioned Rafi seeing Elnor, or thinking she saw Elnor as the people who were going to be deported escape. So I just thought that was a really nice resolution of that subplot, and now we can move on. But I liked it. Yeah,
it's really cool, and like you say, I love Jerry and Michelle. The way they connect with each other as actors is wonderful. It's been great to have a lot of them together, and then also seeing these characters of Seven and Rafi in this episode, about how differently they view things, how differently they operate, and yet they're able to find a way, because they understand one another, they know each other well enough, they have this underlying trust between them, and we're able to see how they give and take with one another and push and pull with one another to accomplish what they need to accomplish, because they have a shared goal. And I like that. I like that very much. Yeah. It would be interesting if we could see that kind of interaction and that kind of cooperation between those of us who have the same goal, but don't necessarily have the same way of getting there. I mean, certainly in the Christian community, there's so much diversity. There's so many different types of people, and so many different types of understandings of what it means to be a Christian, and different focuses. Like we have multiple gospels with different viewpoints on the same person and the same ideas. We also have different people with different emphases on different ways of being Christian that I think can complement each other beautifully if we're focused on the same core values, the same core ideas of what we're here to do in this world. So I don't know, it's just a beautiful picture of people working together who are different to one another because they love one another and because they have similar goals. So
well, what does Paul say in 1 Corinthians? He says there are different varieties of service, but the same Spirit activates them in everyone.
Right.
Which has always been one of my favorite verses, that you can't do it all, but what you can do, and let others do the other things, and God uses it all for the good.
Right. And I know it's a small thing in the episode, but hey, this is what we do. Don't
apologize for finding these connections. You're right.
Well, it's true though, and I like that, and I like seeing. I mean, there's so many ways in which it's can be difficult to get along with people who are different to us, but it's another small way in which Star Trek is again showing us a way to do that. By having some trust for one another. I think a lot of the times when we let our differences get between us, we often are distrusting each other fundamentally. And, if we can find ways to earn that trust back with one another, I think that will help, but it's not easy. But anyway,
it certainly is easier said than done.
yeah,
But I think you're right. I think as the church, as our nation, as our communities, trusting each other could only help.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I also liked that the scene of the bus, the people on the bus being liberated, reminded me a lot of what happened on Prodigy near the end of what we've seen so far,
Right.
where the people on the mining asteroid are liberated. It made me think about our conversations around the gospel having liberation as a goal,
Right.
or not as a goal, but as one of the signs of the Spirit's presence and activity is people who need liberating from whatever being liberated. So I
Yeah.
liked that. Again, a little moment in the episode, but it made that connection for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. I do like that. And of course, they're here to make a positive change in the timeline. They're here to save humanity, as it were. So yeah, seems they should be doing some
And they may even be, regardless of how that mission goes, and I expect it being Star Trek, it's going to succeed in the end. I'd be very shocked if second season leaves us at the end with this, oh no, we're still a xenophobic, tyrannical, autocracy.
Right.
But I like how Rios had that interaction with that other man on the bus, that you get the impression that they really connected, even if only briefly, and that other man, and forgive me, his name, if we heard it, escapes me. Pedro, thank you. We get the feeling his life's going to be different for having met Rios. So it reminds me of some of those bit players in Star Trek 4, like the woman who gets a new kidney from Dr. McCoy. That as our heroes are going about this big, galaxy at stake thing,
right,
they also do positive butterfly effects. It's not all step on a butterfly's wing and you kill the future, right? Sometimes those butterfly effects are positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And did you notice that Q referred to himself as the flutter of a butterfly?
Yes.
I am the evolution of stardust, the gentle flutter of a butterfly. I am death, destroyer of a world. I don't know what that all means, but it sure was impressive. And DeLancie delivered it well. And I thought, the butterfly image again. So
yeah, very interesting. And interesting to have a character, especially Q, claiming to be death, destroyer of worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the role that he's playing right now? Certainly is all those things.
Well, yeah, he wants to destroy the world we've known in TNG and going forward, right?
Right.
So he's certainly a tempter in this episode. And both the Queen and Q are tempters in this episode.
Yeah.
It's interesting to put this alongside of what Q says in the episode Tapestry. You're dead and I'm God. Now,
right.
I'm death, destroyer of worlds. Eventually we'll be able to put this into our series on Q as takes on various ideas about God.
Right. Well, and, what does Adam Soong say the first time we see him? Imagine, I am a god.
Oh, yeah. Well, I that's great, Kevin. Yeah. So Q's found the right guy. He's taking advantage of this terrible personal tragedy, but Adam does have these tendencies toward, and again, I don't doubt that he's well-intentioned, but we've seen on Star Trek before, people like Richard Daystrom, well-intentioned, but these tendencies toward very grandiose, I'm going to change the world plans, Star Trek tells us they can backfire sometimes.
Yes. When people get so focused on their goal that they don't think about their ethics.
Yeah.
That's a very big and frequent problem in Star Trek. We talk about it sometimes, or I've talked about it at times, about our as our technological development outpacing our moral and spiritual development. And that we can get ahead of ourselves because Star Trek is interesting because it's encouraging us to grow, but and to advance, right? But always with that caution that the most important growth and the way that we most need to focus on progressing is in the purity of our motives, in the our pursuit of what we call around here the good, the true, the beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
that we are finding a truly human way of being, that we are keeping to certain ideas of what it means to be ethical, what it means to essentially be loving in the world, and to
Mm-hmm.
progress ourselves in the sense of our souls, and let the rest of that follow, instead of being dragged by our ambitions, right, off into places for which we are not prepared. I mean, that
Right.
goes right back to Encounter at Farpoint, even, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that Q is kind of basically having that telling that cautionary tale to Picard, and Picard's pushing back against it. But then later, when Picard sees, oh no, we're not ready to face the Borg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we
Mm-hmm.
learn, well, maybe we are overreaching a little bit, and we do need to step back. So there's that push and pull that happens, and the relationship between Picard and Q very much centers around that conversation. So it's interesting to
Yeah.
see Q sort of really pushing the narrative, propelling the story in this season of Picard.
Yeah. I also thought a lot about what you said about the episode Home Soil, when we found
Mm,
out that Rene Picard's contribution is saving this probably sentient microorganism. I mean, we haven't seen it happen yet, but
right,
we know, I thought about in Home Soil, that's the issue. That's the test, right? Is it's not a test, but
right,
it's a test of all the characters' ethics that naturally arises. Not that it's a
right.
contrived situation, but it's, are we moral enough to respect this microscopic life form, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not destroy it. So I guess we're going to get a moment similar to that eventually, I hope,
Mm-hmm.
in this season. But again, it's like you say, and you said a lot in the episode where we talked about terraforming. Do we exercise what we can do responsibly, or do we decide, well, the ends justify the means? And once you've decided that once, it's easier to do it the next time and the next time and the next
Right.
time. And yeah.
Well, and we talked about Q representing chaos, in our episode Next of Kin to Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And he is in this episode saying, I am death, destroyer of worlds.
Right.
And, we have the potential to be that. We have the ability to be that. And the
Sure.
constant tension in Star Trek is, do we have the capability of being explorers and discoverers without becoming destroyers?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the question Q always comes to the center of, is that the 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 two ways in which we can go as a species. So,
Yeah.
which of course is essential to the gospel, essential to the sense
Mm-hmm.
of who we are in relationship to God, who we are made to be, who we can be at our best, and then who we can be at our worst, and that they're both inside all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't, I think we often tell a false story, even in Christian circles, that there are good people and there are bad people.
Mm.
And good people do good things and they get good things for the good they do. And bad people do bad things and they get bad things for the bad that they do. But that's not how it works at all. How it
Mm-hmm.
works is, we each within ourselves and as a human species are a mix. We are part this and part that. Sometimes we do good and sometimes we do bad. And the same people who do good are the same people who do bad.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not all one thing. And we do have choices to make. And not only that, but as we've talked about too, God brings the rain to fall on the just and the unjust alike.
Mm-hmm.
Or as one of my favorite bands, Dave Zicker, puts it, God showers blessings on the righteous and the wicked. And so good things and bad things come from and to everybody.
Yeah.
And we don't, just like we can't earn salvation. We talk about not being able to earn salvation. And that's true in every aspect of our lives, not just where we go when we die, but what kind of
Mm-hmm.
salvation we experience now. We can certainly pursue that in a very active way And there's certainly salvation for us here and now that we can experience. But at the same time, we don't earn it. We don't earn it, and we can't earn it. And so when things go awry here, it's because we're in a place and in a time where things go awry. And when we do wrong, it doesn't mean that we're irredeemable, because nothing and no one is beyond redemption, ultimately. So,
yeah.
And let's just take a moment to appreciate the fact that this episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes, because
that
is always a good thing.
With an excellent hand and eye, as always.
Yes. And so this is a good Frakes episode too, because it has the kind of stuff that, you know, he gets to play with, the espionage and all of that.
Right.
Well,
and I happened to see an interview with him yesterday, a written interview, where he was just talking about being in that diner filming with DeLancie and Spiner, and just kind of marveling at the fact that how much these two men still brought to these. I mean, Spiner wasn't playing Data, but how much they brought to these characters, and how skilled at their craft they were. And I just really like the idea that somebody who's been directing now for as long as Jonathan Frakes has can still just take such pleasure in the performer's ability. And it sounds like they enjoyed his direction, so it must have been quite a good set to be on.
yeah, I'm sure it was. I was definitely loving seeing that scene, and you know, wishing I could be in the room and all that, right?
yeah,
it was beautiful. And it's great to see, you know, we'll probably never see the TNG crew together again on screen the way we'd like to, but we continue to see them all interacting with one another, both off screen and now on through Picard. Having Johnny come back to direct, you know, here you've got Patrick and Jonathan and Brent and DeLancie all together in one episode of Picard, along with Leah Thompson. So, you know, hey, who, you know,
no small shakes that,
not bad at all. Oh man. Well, this has been a fascinating episode, and I've enjoyed it, and looking forward to see where the season goes. But I think it is time for us to find out who has won our Star Trek trivia.
That's an excellent idea.
All right.
Oh, there's the card.
Okay. Are you prepared to submit your answers?
I'm ready when you are.
All right. In 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's see how we did. Number 1, in the Voyager episode Message in a Bottle, which alien hunters are displeased when they learn their relay station is being used by Voyager? You said the Kazon. I said the Hirogen. And the answer is the Hirogen.
That's right.
See, I would have guessed you got that right, because I haven't seen Voyager in forever. But
well, and I haven't either. And of course, once I saw Hirogen, I was like, oh, that's the answer. Darn it! Why didn't I think of the Hirogen?
Now, again, to the people who published this Scene It game a decade or more ago, you say which alien hunters, but I guess they mean which alien hunters, as opposed to
hunters who are aliens.
Alien hunters.
Yeah.
I was thrown by that. You may have heard when I read the question, like, what? Like the X-Files department? I don't know.
Right.
Okay. All right. Number 2, what long-kept secret does Captain Picard reveal to Dr. Crusher in the Next Generation episode Attached, which is, as you said, a great episode?
Yes.
You said that he is in love with her. Mm-hmm. I said Picard had romantic feelings for Beverly at the time she married Jack Crusher. Survey says that he has been in love with her for many years. So I think we give that one to you.
I think we both had it.
No, you're being gracious, but I specified at the time she married Jack Crusher, which you could parse that to say I didn't mean ongoing. But you said that he is in love with her.
That's
and I think
true.
That's closer to for many years. So
it's well, you're the game show host. I'll let you make the call.
There you go. So we're all tied up. The score is 1-1.
No, it's 2-1. It's 2-1.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you give it to me and then take it away, man.
Wait. No, wait. You didn't get the
Oh, no, I
Kazon
didn't get the
question
first one.
right.
I'm crazy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're tied up.
Tied up. What do I?
Let me be the game show host here. All right. Number 3, Frank Gorshin played Beale in the original series episode Let Us Be That Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, but was best known for playing whom on the television series Batman? You said the Riddler, I said the Riddler, and the answer is indeed the Riddler.
Aha.
So we've had Julie Newmar, we've had Frank Gorshin.
We're waiting
Who
for...
else from
I don't think Burgess Meredith
Batman
was in Star Trek at any point, nor was Cesar Romero, so I'm not sure who else we're going to get.
Adam West wasn't.
No. Burt Ward wasn't.
Burt Ward wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
The guy who played Alfred, maybe? I don't know.
No, he wasn't either. I don't think so.
So maybe we've reached the end of our Star Trek Batman run, but
we might have, yeah. That's pretty good. So, hey, we tied it up 2-2.
We did. So we share the self-sealing golden stem bolt award.
Yes. I am proud to share with you yet another golden self-sealing stem bolt. That is all right with me. So I kind of thought you might trounce me on this one. So we ended up being on par with one another. Well, it has been a fantastic run of Star Trek trivia yet again. And I'm just curious, because I somehow get curious this time every episode. Mike, what have we got coming up next episode?
Somehow funny you should ask.
It's weird,
because
right?
Next episode, we're going to be returning to our celebration of the Next Generation's 35th anniversary.
Yay!
And we'll be talking about the absolutely pivotal Data episode, The Measure of a Man.
Yes, I am so looking forward to that. This is one of those episodes that when you talk about Next Generation, people go to that as one of the best episodes
Absolutely,
of the series.
for good reason.
So, for good reason. From season 2. So, as we continue our journey, I hope everybody at home will join us for that. And in the meantime, please like, comment, and share. And if you like what you're hearing, please write a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening. Your reviews help more people find out about the show and let us know how we're doing.
Also, send us your feedback and questions. You can find us at Gospel Trek Pod on both Twitter and Instagram, and The Gospel According to Star Trek on Facebook. Or email us at gospeltrekpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to discuss your feedback on the show.
And you can support the show by subscribing. You'll get early access to each week's topical episode, plus outtakes and bonus content. Just click the subscribe button wherever you listen. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Gospel According to Star Trek podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time.
I am the evolution of Stardust. I'm Mike Poteet.
And I'm Kevin Sinise, and as Jesus said in John 10:10, live long and prosper. See you next time.